time for some more typography experiments. So the premise for this video is pretty simple. It's nothing novel. Really, we're just gonna cut up some type. I went ahead and I printed out some different layouts and stuff that I can use in different words. And really, we're just gonna cut them up. I have a box cutter here and some scissors. We're just gonna cut them up in different ways and see what we can come up with. I have one really weird idea that I'm interested to see how it turns out. But really after that, it's really just kind of what you would expect, just kind of cutting up some of the letters, moving them around, and just seeing what happens. So let's get to it. Alrighty, so here we are. I went ahead and I cut up some of these just to make them a little bit easier to work with. I'm gonna start with this. The reason why I haven't cut them up individually, because the first idea that I want to try is I want to fold up everything and then try cutting it up randomly and then opening it up and see if we have anything interesting. What I don't want to happen is it to look like a paper snowflake. I'm trying to avoid that effect, but I do want to try and see what happens if we just fold this up and then cut it up. Let's open this up and see what it looks like. Oh my goodness, okay. So that's not really gonna work. Let's see if this one's any better. Well, that's interesting. Let's try one more time. Let's see what happens if we do it with this one. Or, you know, maybe what we do is we fold once, make a cut or two, and then fold it again, make a cut or two, so that way maybe it's not quite as even throughout, kind of mix it up a little bit. I'm just gonna that. All right, let's see what this looks like. That's something. Let's not really use that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else like in the way that I can fold it that might be more interesting. At this point, we're just gonna keep getting the exact same thing no matter what we do. So it's always gonna be a mirrored image, so it doesn't really matter. Unless maybe we fold it in a bunch of like really random ways. It's like it can't be mirrored, maybe. Good Lord, I can even figure out how to open it. Now that's interesting. So while I don't like either one of these, I feel like maybe together they might be kind of cool. So like use this part and then this part and kind of put them together. I'll save this one. I want to keep trying some different stuff and see what happens. Alrighty, so now that we have that done, out of the way, we can start messing with these. I'm gonna zoom in just a little bit, just so it's a little bit easier to see. Let's just cut it. Let's just see what happens. No rhyme or reason. Like overlapping them a little bit could be kind of cool. Redo like that, maybe. And now I'll have to figure out how to put this back together. So yeah, this is a bit more exciting. Now we like cut it up a bunch. I don't know if I love it. We'll keep this version as well, just in case. I'll have to re-put it back together, but at least we have it. Let's try this one. I'm gonna try to keep a consistent angle and then just chop off like just the end and the beginning. It's all right, but it's not really exciting. So that's kind of interesting because we can kind of get the S and P, like kind of the letter forms to line up a little bit. Not. Yeah, we'll just tear it up. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Definitely pushing it a bit more, which I think is fine. So that could be fun to play around with. What else could we do? You know, I'm just gonna try to randomly make some incisions. So while I don't think that this is like on its own is that exciting, I think maybe what we could do is make shapes that follow the cutout and then add photography into those shapes. So like imagine like something here, you know, that comes up here into this part of the canvas. We could stick a photograph there or here, or maybe it's one big photograph, so in the middle it's all split up. Like that might be kind of cool. That kind of makes me think that maybe we could do that again, but instead of doing it randomly, we could do it more like towards the center. Yeah, so something like that. Might need to add like maybe a little bit more of the S back, but I think I can fix that in post. But this could be something interesting. I think this might turn out to be the best design, but maybe not so much the most interesting typography. So we'll definitely hold on to this just in case. But with that being said, I think we're at a pretty good place with the amount of options we have. I'm kind of stuck on thinking if there's anything else that I could do. I'm sure there is, but I'm just not thinking of anything right now. So I guess worst case scenario, I could always come back and film some more typography experiments, or just save some for another time and come back to this idea at a different date and do a separate video. But I think for now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the experiments that we have so far, I'm gonna load them into my computer, and then see if we can come up with a design using one of the things that we have. And we'll just see how that goes. So let's move over to Photoshop. All right, so I was actually about to stop recording. I don't know if I'll put what I just recorded in the video or not, but one last thing popped into my head. So I have this pile of stuff, just all the excerpts and stuff. So I'm wondering if I could turn that, could find like enough of like, you know, little slivers of stuff to make another design out of it, because that could be kind of interesting. We have our S here. I don't think that's actually what this is, but we'll keep it. But I think even though they're not the same, I think that's kind of what makes it interesting. Like that's interesting, but I don't know if I can manage to keep it together and also find all of the letters I need. So far, it's not looking very good. I don't think I might have not have cut enough of some of the words to get enough to Frankenstein it back together. I really like that idea. Like, I like where this is going. So what I might do is just take a picture of this and then use like this part that I did Frankenstein back together with another one of the things that I did, and maybe that'll come together in a cool way. I just can't find enough extra pieces from the word split in order to make something out of it. Like I just keep getting like really teeny tiny fragments, but nothing that like really indicates what letter we're looking at. So kind of a bust of an idea so far. Maybe I can make it work in post, but not gonna bet on it. So that's all the ideas I've got. So let's go and move to Photoshop and see what we can come up with. So the first thing that I did was remove the backgrounds from each one of the photos and then roughly brought them up to a size I thought they might be usable. I also thought it was kind of cool to keep the grid pattern in that I have on the mat that I have on my desktop. So I made second versions that also kept that in, just in case I wanted to use that in the future. So from there, I just kind of started playing around with some rough ideas. I really like this first layout. I actually put together two different ones together to get the type to look like that. But I really just thought it was cool and I wanted to see if I could make something with it. So I was just looking up broken or split or destroyed imagery, and I found this statue and I thought it was kind of cool because it was like ripping its rib cage open. So I thought thematically it made sense and I thought I might be able to do something cool with it. So I really just kind of dropped it in and just kind of started experimenting with some different ways that I could use the image. So whenever I tried to remove the background, it actually cut out a little bit more than it was supposed to, but the way that it was cut actually kind of matched up with the way that I cut up the lettering. So I just kind of kept it. It was just a happy accident. And as you also saw, I kind of removed some of the cracks that were already in the statue just to kind of drive home the fact that they're like being separated. But from there, I just kind of started playing around with some type and just trying to get the layout down that I wanted. I really like playing around with typography and trying to make it fit around the image. So that's something that I was trying to do. But that was pretty much it for this one. Once I kind of had the layout done, I knew I could come back and tighten it up and just make it a little bit better. Now from there, I wanted to go with the idea that I'd kind of mentioned earlier in the video, where I would take the type and then make shapes around it so it felt like an image was being split apart from the type. With the first one that I tried, it didn't really work out that well, so I moved on to a second variation of the type that I had, and it came out okay. I really just wasn't happy with it. It was fine. It just didn't really speak to me or like stand out to me as something special that I thought was really that interesting. So I would end up just kind of moving on. But I did spend a little bit of time trying to make it as good as I possibly could, roughen up the edges and make it feel pretty realistic. But I don't know, what do you guys think? Was it cool? Should I have kept it? So after that, I wanted to use a different layout with a different variation that I had done, and I chose this one to use. But I also thought I could use the photo from the previous design that I was working on. So I just took that and I tried to move it in a way that made it an interesting composition. I actually really liked how this one turned out, just because I kind of made everything a little bit more bottom heavy. So it feels like everything is just kind of crushing down on this person, which maybe doesn't match thematically the most, but I still really liked the way that it made me feel and how it looked. So I just kind of stuck with it. After that, I wanted to try to come up with one more design. So I kind of played around with some of the other type that I had, some of the other experiments that I did, but I wasn't really coming up with anything. But like I said earlier, I also wanted to try something with the grid pattern that I had earlier. So I decided to use this one and then throw in some images and some extra stuff and just kind of see what I could come up with. Really, this one was just me experimenting and trying some things out. I wasn't really trying to go for anything specific. I just wanted to kind of throw some things at the wall and see what happens. So once I kind of had all the images kind of put together and set together, everything felt a little bit too separate. So I grabbed these diagram images that I have and just kind of placed them behind just to kind of bring everything together. But once that was finished, I just had to go back through each design, add some textures and tweak some stuff to get to the final results. So here are the final results. Whenever I first started this video, I wasn't really sure how the posters were going to turn out at the end. I honestly figured the results wouldn't be that cool, and so I'd have to do a lot of the heavy lifting and editing, and the type would just kind of be a placeholder or just something else, a part of the poster, but nothing special in and of itself. And even though I didn't do anything too crazy with the type this time, I think the results turned out really cool. Honestly, I feel like the images as well as the typography go really well together, and so one isn't necessarily upstaging the other. They're both kind of leaning on each other and playing off each other to make a complete poster that just looks really cool altogether. I think the first two are my favorites. The third one is cool, but I feel like it was more of an experiment that I was trying out than something that's supposed to be some really cool poster. But I did enjoy making it, and I do still think it's pretty cool. Typically, I would have just removed the background from the photo, but something was telling me that there was something interesting that I could do with keeping the placemat that I have on my desk. And so I just kind of went with my gut, and then we ended up here. What do you think about this one? Is it cool? Is it weird? Does it not make any sense? I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And like usual, I'm going to give you guys access to the photographs of the experiments, so that way you can take them and come up with your own designs. And if you do use them, please send them to me. I'd love to see them. But with that being said, if you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it if you would check out the rest of my channel and then consider subscribing. I hope to see you in the next video.